Hi, my name is Suela, and in today's video I'm going to talk to you about what you need to consider or how much it would actually cost you to start a wine label in South Africa. So I speak to a whole lot of winepreneurs and aspiring winepreneurs that are interested in venturing into the world of wine, but they just don't know what it takes or how much it would actually cost or how much one needs to invest in the business of wine when getting started. So I think I always want to emphasize that the business of wine is not only limited to having a wine label, but if that's something that you're considering, here is how much it's going to cost you. I am unfortunately just going to focus on just a small batch, like a boutique wine label, or just a small batch of wines that you would be starting with, because the investment amount can go up until millions. So it also depends, or most of these costs or everything I'm going to talk about in this video will greatly depend on the production size. So how much are you producing and how big are you going in terms of this new project of yours? So of course it is exciting, but as much as it is exciting, and many of us believe that it is our dream and we're passionate about it, we obviously need to know how much that is going to cost. How much are we going to part with for us to follow this passion of ours? So before I get started, I think it's important that you think about it really hard and find out if it is really an investment worth going into, and if you feel it's something that you could get great, or you could get some sort of return in investment. And in my experience, there isn't just a set amount that I could say that this is the amount of money that you need to go into the business of wine, or that you need to get started, because you have to continuously invest money into this type of business for so many reasons, but we're not going to go deep into that in this video. So in this video, I'm just focusing mainly on how much you need to get started, right? So I would say that you need about 50,000 to 100,000 to produce a small batch of wines. And it depends on how you go about this. Obviously, you have options. You could make the wine yourself, or you could partner with a winemaker that could make the wine for you. So you also have to consider, on top of the production cost, you do have to consider more costs or other costs that are not involved in just the production, that are important in you starting the business of wine or you running your own wine label. You of course need to consider what is more important, which is the licensing part, and that you're looking at spending about anything from 2.5 to about 30,000. It really depends on how you go about it. If you are applying for the liquor license by yourself, or you are using a liquor license agent or a liquor license attorney. So you have to also consider getting a trademark for your brand, and you're looking at spending anything from 5,000 to about I spend it about 19,000 on a trademark. So it really depends on how you go about it. Are you doing it yourself, or are you using an attorney? So you also have to consider your storage fees. So where are you going to store your product once it is finished and ready to go into the market? So you have to consider the storage fees or the storage costs, and that, in my experience, can range from anything from 3.5 to about 15,000. And like I said, this will depend on the amount of stock you keep, and obviously the production size. So you also have to consider your marketing fees, marketing and advertising. And that would depend on how far are you willing to go, how deep are you willing to go into your pockets to make sure that your brand becomes a success. And it can vary greatly. So whether you go in the traditional advertising route, where you use TV marketing, or you go through like radio marketing or billboards or so on, that can cost you a lot of money. You can also go digital marketing or word of mouth, and obviously that can also depend on how much you are willing to invest in that. And I think you can budget of about anything from 10,000 a month, going upwards. So this really depends on your capabilities and where you're sitting as a person and what you really can do and how much you really have to spare on marketing and advertising, which, by the way, is the most important, or one of the most important aspects of your business. So you also have to consider distribution, like route to market. How are you going to get the product to the customer? So in my experience, I would say that the most easiest way to go about it is to part ways with your customers. So basically what I'm trying to say is you can divide the cost of distribution and share that cost with your customers, which really brings it down to just a small amount. But that will differ greatly depending on, are your customers coming to you to pick up, or are you delivering the products to the customer? And what courier or what delivery model are you using, or what mode of transportation are you using? So that will depend really on the options that you choose. You've also got to consider things like overheads if you have employees, and that will obviously depend on how many you have. So I'm pretty much sure that I've covered almost everything you need to know, or all the costs that you need to take into account before you actually go into such a business. But like I said, these are not just once-off fees, so you have to constantly invest into that business in order for it to work. So one other cost that I forgot is obviously the design or the designing of your label. So before you can actually sell any product, you also need to get a label designed, and for that you can spend anything from 5,000 to 30,000. That will also depend on the complexity of your label. And I would also want to say that you want to get the best design person to design your label, because obviously that's the one thing that's going to attract customers, to your brand. And also you want to get somebody who is familiar with the South African labeling requirements, so that your label can also comply with the regulations or the requirements of the labeling in South Africa. So I hope that you found this video very informative, and if you do want to get yourself some wine, you can visit www.siwelawines.co.za. You can also learn more about wine or the business of wine through our academy at www.academy.siwelawines.co.za. You can also see more of this kind of content, or see more of what we're about, on all our social media platforms at Siwela Wines. Thank you so much for your time. Cheers.